Hello. Okay, so I've been wanting to sit down and do this video for a really long time. It's probably terrible quality because it's on my iPad because my fiance won't get me a vlogging camera, and I don't really need one because I'm just making this for friends. But I wanted to share my birthing story. I've gotten a lot of questions about it, and I just think there's this reality that people don't share, and not everyone is as crazy as my story, and it could have been way worse. I'm just happy that I have a healthy baby and that I'm okay, and this is crazy to say, but I'd do it all over again. And that's ridiculous after I tell you the story, but just the love that it didn't even happen, and I'll get into this right when they put me on his chest or right after he came out. Like, the whole pregnancy, I already loved him so much. And wow, I didn't expect to get emotional, but so for me it wasn't this huge love that I felt when he came out, because I had already loved him so much. But so I got pregnant right after NTC in February, and NTC is this army training we have to go to, for everyone who doesn't know. And obviously it wasn't planned, and it wasn't exactly how I expected, or my family expected, or society expects you to bring a baby into this world. Now I'm engaged, but I wasn't in a serious relationship at the time. Now I am, and we definitely have made it work, and I love him and I'll never leave him, and I want him to be by my side through raising Keaton and the rest of our children whenever that time comes. But this isn't about him. Pregnancy was really easy, and I say that because a lot of people have a lot of complications, and everything was pretty smooth from every appointment, finding out the gender. We did it online, and then the doctor confirmed it. I just took a blood test and sent it in at 8 weeks, so we found out at 12 weeks what we were having. We kind of felt like it was a boy. I don't know why. But obviously finding out I was pregnant was, my whole life changed. But I was ready for whatever to come. My hair is a mess. So I would say, I literally found out I was pregnant when I was 6 weeks pregnant. So how it works, basically when you have your period, you're technically 0 days pregnant, and after your period, every single day that you're a period, you're technically pregnant. They count those days. So then you have sex, you conceive, and when you conceive, you're already 2 weeks pregnant. That's how they count the days. So 2 weeks later, I didn't even miss my period yet. It was on a Sunday, and I was like, I'm craving shrimp fried rice. Why am I craving shrimp fried rice? I was like, oh my god, I'm pregnant. Anyway, so I had just gotten off birth control because I wasn't going to have sex anymore. So that happened. And obviously I don't need to explain this, but so I was craving shrimp fried rice. Wow. And I was like, holy shit, I'm pregnant. But I wasn't even supposed to start my period until that Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever. And so I didn't know how accurate the pregnancy test was even going to be, because it has to be usually people take pregnancy tests after they miss it, so I didn't know how accurate it was going to be. But pregnancy was easy. I felt sick probably starting a couple weeks after I started my period, and basically throughout first trimester, second trimester, I didn't feel very good. I just didn't really have an appetite. I lost a lot of weight. So this is kind of just like the realities of my weight journey, and not everyone's is like this. And disclaimer, I've already lost all my baby weight, and I'm already back to where I started. But I've also lost a lot of muscle. I didn't work out a lot of my pregnancy because I felt poopy and I was just being lazy, and it was COVID, and honestly I didn't eat a lot, so I felt like I didn't need to work out, which was stupid. To be honest, I kind of regret not working out, like once I started to feel better. I went on walks with my dog during COVID because I wasn't really going to work because we were kind of working from home, and yeah, it's weird. Or that whole journey is weird. But basically, I was kind of working from home, so I actually got really lucky because all the time I was feeling like poop, I just kind of got to sit around and be lazy, which I honestly feel like made me feel worse. So like if I would have been active or going to work, I might have been able to shake like the nauseousness. And it wasn't even like nauseous like I threw up, which I did throw up a lot, like a couple times, but that wasn't because of nauseous, it's because I had really bad heartburn that I ended up getting on medication for and then didn't have for the rest of my pregnancy. But I didn't get it until like I was like, oh, I just don't want to take any medication because the baby. No. That, it was real. And they say it means he has a lot of hair, and he has a full head of hair. So maybe that myth is correct. But I also had a full head of hair. But heartburn was terrible. And so I ended up going on medication for that. That was really the only huge symptom I had. Because there was a couple times that my heartburn was so bad, I literally threw up because it made me feel so nauseous. And just like something needed to come out. And when I would throw up, this is probably TMI, but I got like really bad broken blood vessels, like all in my eyes, all in my cheeks, like because of gagging so hard. Because nothing was coming up because I wasn't eating anything. But once that happened like twice, I was like, all right, I'm not doing this anymore. I need something. And that's when the doctor finally gave me something. So one thing that did happen during pregnancy that not everyone gets, so I had to get Rogaine, and it's to treat RH incompatibility during pregnancy. So I have negative blood and my fiance has positive blood. We both have A, so I'm A negative. And because I have A negative, or anything negative, you have to get this shot. And it contains antibodies collected from plasma donors that stop your immune system from reacting to your baby's RH positive blood. So they don't test the baby's blood, which I mean, I guess in certain circumstances they could, but it's just a thing in case he doesn't have negative blood like me. I had to get the shot to combat that, and he actually does have positive blood because my fiance is A positive, so it's like a 99% chance that he is A positive. Just biology. So yeah, I got that shot, and you have to do it at like 20 weeks, and then you have to do it again after you have the baby. So I did it in the hospital after I had Keaton. And so those two things are really the only, or three things I guess, were the only things that were really bad during pregnancy, or could have been bad with the RH stuff. So going into kind of my relationship and pregnancy, we do long distance, so, and we're also dual military, and his leadership let him come early so that in case I went into labor, he would be there. So he came like a week and a half before the due date, which I was so scared because everyone's like, oh, he's really big, like Keaton was really big. Oh, that's another thing that actually happened. During pregnancy, she couldn't find, I was really small. I'll show you a picture. And that's just because I'm really long. But then towards the end, I realized I was kind of small. So it's the fundal height, and it measures the distance from your pubic bone to the top of your uterus, and the doctor just like kind of feels it out and then measures it every single time I went in. So it's always supposed to be plus or minus 2 of the weeks you are. So I always kind of measured, like if I was 35 weeks, I measured at like 33. I was always the lower end, but then when I started getting to like past 35 weeks, I stayed like 33 centimeters. And then I think I got to 35 by the time the end, but I was always like measuring kind of small. So when I went, I think it was 36 weeks appointment. Shoot, I don't remember. I need to write this stuff down. She was feeling my stomach and she's like, I can kind of feel him over here, but I think he's really small. Girl, I am 5'11", and daddy is 6'2", and like 220. I don't think this baby's small, but whatever. I mean, I told her that, but she's like, he's kind of hidden. Like, okay. I can tell he's head down, which was nice because I didn't have to worry about him flipping or anything. He was head down my entire pregnancy. He just liked it down there. They say the sound of the blood flow is like soothing to them, which is weird because he hates white noise. Now, he's waking up. So I might have to hold him in like 5 minutes. But, so she had me get a scan where they go and do an ultrasound and they measure him all over again. So they do a measure at 20 weeks and then they only do a measure later in the pregnancy if they're worried about him being small or too big. And it doesn't really affect anything. I was like, okay, what if he's too small? They're like, you might have to look into it. I was like, what if he's too big? They're like, nothing. I'm like, okay, cool. So he measured, this was at, I'm pretty sure this was like 36 weeks. No, it wasn't. It was like 34 weeks. And they said he was between 7 pounds, 6 ounces, and like 9 pounds. Like in that range. Like, oh, no. That's inaccurate. They said he was between like 7 and 9 pounds. Like at 36 weeks. Yeah, it was 36. I'm like, I still have this baby in me for a couple more weeks. No, I think it was 38. Shit. No, it was 36. I was like, there's no way this baby's so big. But who knows. So, they weren't worried about his size anymore. And I thought he was going to come early. When I did my 4D ultrasounds, she also was like, yeah, he's probably going to come early because he's ready and down there. Which he really wasn't down there. Because, come to find out, later, it took a lot to get him down there. And when I say that, like, in the position to come out in your pubic bone. Because they have to, like, squeeze themselves in there. And then that's when, like, you can finally get to 10 centimeters. At least that's how it was for me. So, I'm going to skip 4 weeks later. I am finally at my due date. It's the day before my due date. So, November 16th. And I have my fiance take 40-week pictures, like, in the room with me, like, popping a bubble, like, oh, about to pop. Cute picture. Never posted it, but it's right here. I'll try to put it on the screen if I can. Have no idea how to do that. I just see YouTubers do it. But, so, I'm gonna be looking at my phone because I kind of wrote everything down that I could think of, but I'll probably miss some stuff. So, finally, I'm sitting on the couch and I feel like little drizzles or drips or just more than normal discharge, but it was more liquidy. And sorry if this is way too much information, but it's birth and it's literally something coming out of your body, so it's gonna be gross. And when I felt that, I was like, this is weird. I always look stuff up. It's like, it could be my water breaking, but like if it slowly drips, I mean, whatever. So I had contractions that started at like around 7 the day before, but they were super low, like period cramps, which people always told me like, oh, when you have your first contraction, you'll know. Like, no, I did not know at all. It just felt like a period cramp. I mean, so many people was like, you know. I could tell you all the way up until he came out, there was no contraction where I was like, oh, I know. Like, there was no leading up contraction to be like, oh, I know that he's coming. No, not at all. And I mean, that's just my experience, but it could be different. I don't know how other people do. So, contractions started on the 15th. Then come the 16th, that's when we took the 40-week pictures for the next day. Still low period cramps. But I had called the doctor the day before, and basically my body was just like kind of getting ready. So, not like false labor, but I guess. So that night, I kind of slept. I mean, I tried to at least. But I woke up a couple of times, but I was always used to kind of waking up to go to the bathroom and stuff, but it was just period cramps. So they kind of stopped in the morning, kept going throughout all the 16th, but they never progressed, nothing. And the doctor said, when I had called the night before, she said that I can come in when when I can't walk or talk through my contractions. Girl, my contractions weren't even close to that. But I also think I kind of have a higher maybe pain tolerance. So, I mean, I could have walked and talked through most of my contractions until I started feeling like really bad. But that was the other side effects. My contractions, I can say it really was until I was like in labor, like pushing, that those contractions maybe felt like I couldn't walk or talk through them. So, and I may be exaggerating. Baby's waking up once. Kind of had contractions all day. I could always walk and talk. They weren't progressing at all. They always stayed. They were like super inconsistent. There was never like really a rhythm to them. Nothing like that. So then when I felt that trickling that night of the 16th, by the way, he's due on the 17th. When I felt that trickling, like, I kind of knew it was like maybe my water breaking, but I don't know. So I went to the bathroom to like wipe because, I mean, it was liquid coming out. And I just felt like this gush of water all over the floor. And I was like, and it wouldn't stop. And it was just like going everywhere. So I like grab a towel. I'm like, babe, my water just broke. Like I immediately knew, like that's not normal at all. But the coloring was kind of weird. Like it was green and it had like specks of, come to find out, like his poop in it, which is, I'm not gonna say it's not normal, but it just kind of like concerns when they have their first poop like in you, like he's ready to come out, but my body wasn't ready for him to come out. That's why my contractions were so low and not progressing, like nothing, because he definitely wasn't in the right position. And I do think that kind of has to do with me because I knew my fiance couldn't be there like the whole time, and everyone was telling me that he was gonna come early, like based on where my body was, and one, he didn't come early. He came on his due date. So I had kind of prolonged like things I could have done to maybe put myself in a better position for labor, and I didn't do those things because I didn't want to induce labor, which is really stupid thinking because I really don't think there's a lot of things that can induce you into labor. I think your body does it when it does it. So it's not really fun those last 2 weeks because it's just a waiting game. And I knew that the longer it took, my fiance only had so many days there. So it was kind of starting to give me anxiety because I was like, it's the less time he's going to have with Keaton once he's born. And that made me really sad because I just want him to be around as much as he can, especially in the beginning. So I called the doctor, and I guess like poop in the... So I had... This kind of makes sense because I had contractions for like 2 full days, basically. And I guess when the baby is stressed, that's when they can like let the poop out. That's what the doctor said. So I called the doctor. I said, hi, I called last night. I think my water broke. She's like, okay, come in. So it was way more liquid than I had thought. Like the whole ride to the hospital, I think I put a pad in, and then it was like all over my underwear and my pants. I just brought a towel and put it on the seat. So we got all our stuff together. We got to the hospital at like 9 p.m. and my water broke at 9. We got to the hospital around like 10. And I had to drive all the way to Post, and I live like 30 minutes away. So, and she's like, you go into the triage room first. And there was like no sense of like any urgency at all. And I just felt like maybe there should be. And also when your water breaks, they say that your contractions like start to progress and kind of like start to go fast. And it really wasn't the case. Like the first one that like really was painful, that I had to like start like breathing through, which I was terrible at. And like she's like, focus on a spot and try to breathe, open your eyes. And like, this lady's kind of a bitch. But whatever. Anyway, so they like take their sweet time. I'm like, I just want an epidural. And then they also like checked me to see how dilated I was. And I was like 2 centimeters, which I was 2 or 3 centimeters. I was already that like weeks before when the doctor checked me. Hiya, boy. You guys are only gonna be watching him. I'm sorry. Whatever, well, if you can listen to me, stay along. So then I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna get an epidural. So I should be out of this pain like soon. I'm like, can you guys do this? So I naturally contracted until like 1, and then I finally got the epidural, which I don't even remember this, but I wrote it down on my phone, so maybe it's accurate. I don't know. And so everything was good, and then after the epidural, it slows down your contractions, and I was only at like 4 centimeters, so they gave me Pitocin. So Pitocin is the stuff that makes you contract and go into labor, or helps you along labor. It also, if they induce you, they also use Pitocin. So they were kind of like inducing me to speed things up because the epidural slows things down. Keaton did not like that. His heart rate dropped to like 70, and they started to like worry. Also, some things happened before this, but it's kind of like not really interesting, so I slept at like some point during all of this too. They were like, okay, we need to speed things up. We're going to change your position. So they're changing all my positions. He doesn't like a lot of them. Like his heart rate would drop. I think they thought maybe it was cutting off the umbilical cord. Like when I would move my body a certain way, and then his heart rate would drop because he couldn't breathe. And so then they're like, and also, since my water broke, I only have 24 hours to have him naturally. Or C-section, whatever the case is, but you have 24 hours to have them. And it becomes dangerous for like them to be in there. So yeah the boy, yeah the boy, yeah the boy, 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 boy. Little boy, little boy, little boy, 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 boy. Alright. Anyway, I think he's hungry. I'm gonna go get a bottle. I don't even know where I left off, but I think it was at him not liking any of the positions I was in. So they'd like have me put my leg over here, my leg over here, and then nothing was working. So they got me into the worst one. Also, I took my heartburn medication on the 16th morning, but I didn't bring it for the 17th. So mind you, I could possibly have heartburn during this entire process, which I did. So that was honestly the worst part. And I'm thinking, like, if I did take the medication, would I have not had this experience? I don't know. But so they put me in this position on the bed because I was at 6 centimeters. I was making it in progress. Oh, I won't get there yet, but I can't be on Pitocin because he doesn't like it, and nothing is really working at this point. And it's like the next morning, probably. So, because I slept through the night, through my epidural and stuff, because it was working. Yeah. So they put me in the position with my butt up, my head down, and I'm so uncomfortable. I'm big and pregnant, I have heartburn, I'm in the worst position possible, and I can't move for 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Even if being in a comfortable position for 30 minutes isn't comfortable. So I'm like just trying to breathe through it, and I start to feel contractions. And also my legs weren't really numb anymore. So, like, I felt it kind of wearing off, and I started to feel my contractions. My body doesn't like this epidural. They're like, oh, well, maybe the needle moved. Like, nah. I think I'm just huge, and my body doesn't like things that make it numb. It never lasts very long. With the dentist, I always have to get, like, 2 shots for them to numb it. I guess I probably needed 2 epidurals in there. But, so they're like, okay, well, we can redo it. How long does that take? Hours. But anyway, so I'm in this position for about, I don't even know. I can't look at the time. I don't think I opened my eyes for a whole 24 hours because I was in so much pain at this point. I'm feeling all the contractions. This position is uncomfortable. I have heartburn, and it's just like not good. So I finally hit the nurse button when I think it's like close to 30 minutes, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm so uncomfortable. I'm in so much pain. My epidural's wearing off. I have heartburn, so they try to move me, and I'm like, I have to throw up, of course. So they give me the bag. I also had to pee, but I didn't really realize that because there's so much happening down there. Like, you can't really feel when you have to pee. So I'm like, I need to get up to go pee, and they have to help me because I'm connected to all these stupid things. Not stupid. I'm connected to all of these things, and side note, I make all these pumping just because I'm trying to increase my supply. So I've been pumping during the day and just giving it a bottle. And this is like whatever works. So, wow, that's terrible writing. Did it come out? Clearly my contraptions aren't that good. I'm sorry, little boy. I love you. I love you. Okay, so. But he doesn't mind this position, so his heart rate was fine. And I like kind of opened my eyes to like look at his heart rate to see it was fine. But opening my eyes, I was so dizzy. Like, I was dizzy this entire time. So finally, they come back. I tell them all these things. I have to throw up. So then I start to throw up. In this awful position, I can't really move because there's all these things connected to me. And then finally, when I'm done throwing up, I'm like, I have to pee. So I get up, and it just gushes out all over the floor. They're like, it's fine, it's fine. This lady comes in, cleans it up. It's all under the bed, all over the floor. My fiance's just like, I honestly didn't even pay attention to him this entire time because I'm in so much pain, and I'm just so uncomfortable. And I'm like, I need another epidural. They're like, yeah, we're gonna get one. Hours later, finally it comes back as I'm feeling all of these contractions just intensify. So, and I'm still only at 6 centimeters, and they won't check me like every 10 minutes like I want them to. So, I don't even know what happened next. What happened next? Finally, I think they came back. They put another epidural in me, and then I'm good. So I got from like 6 to 9. Then I wake up. I start to feel the contractions again. Second epidural. Second time. Contractions are way worse because now I'm like 8, 9 centimeters. So she comes and checks me. And obviously I'm not going to get an epidural. Now the focus is just like get to 10 centimeters. So I do think in that really uncomfortable position for 30 minutes, it did put him in my pubic bone, ready to get to 10 centimeters. So, was it worth it? Sure. It was terrible. Anyway, so she checks me and I'm at 9 centimeters. She goes, but I think, and I'm like feeling all of this and her fingers are inside me. She's like, I think I can get you to 10 centimeters. Want me to? I'm like, yeah. So she just moves some scar tissue. She's like, you are now 10 centimeters. I'm like, shit. She's like, they're all like happy and stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna feel this whole thing. And because at this point, I'm not gonna get another epidural, like I said. That would just be ridiculous. So I know I'm gonna have to push through these contractions, which I wasn't too upset about because I wanted to be able to feel the contraction so that I could push. Because if people say like when you have an epidural, you can't really feel everything going on down there, so you don't really know when to push and things like that, and they tell you to push like based on your contraction. So it was fine, but whatever. So they say everyone leaves. Like, it was just the nurse this entire time. I think I had met the doctor like one time. I don't even know. I maybe not even met the doctor yet. I don't know. So she's like, hit the call button once you feel like you have to poop, which means you have to push. It's like kind of similar feelings. And I'm like, okay, so I'm just gonna sit here and wait. And I'm having all these contractions. And mind you, there's still no pattern to these contractions. It's like a 2-minute contraction, 30 seconds off, a 1-minute contraction, 2 minutes off. Like, there's no pattern to them at all. And that's what kind of made laboring hard once I started pushing. So I think it was like 2 o'clock when she said, okay, we're gonna do some practice pushes. You're gonna like kind of breathe through them, push, breathe through them, push. No doctor is around. Still just nurse at this point. And I just didn't know that. Like, I just thought, like, once you start pushing, like, the doctor's in there. And I guess the doctor was doing another delivery. Whatever. It's just things you don't know that you figure out once you're having a baby. I'm gonna try to fix the lighting in here. Oh, wow. Should have done that the entire time. Okay, so I'm at 10 centimeters. Starting to push. It's around 2 p.m., 17 November. So I'm having this baby on his due date. Because either way... Oh, also, like, when everything was dropping, I wasn't progressing, all these positions weren't working, and his heart rate, and I'm getting sick. Mind you, I also had, like, 100 fever. Just to add on to that. So I was so hot. That's what making me so dizzy. I'm so hot. I have the worst heartburn through all of this. I threw up maybe, like, 3 times, like, throughout just progression of centimeters. And then as I'm pushing, I had to throw up too. It was so terrible. Maybe me throwing up got him into the position he needed though, and my pushes worked. I don't know. So there was like 45 minutes of pushes that literally, I don't think there was much progress. Like, they said he came down like this much, which they asked me if I wanted to see any of this. Nope. I don't want to see his head. I don't want to feel his head. I don't want to see myself pushing. I don't want any of it. And other women, way different. Want to feel him, want to like take him out. Like, no. I just didn't have an interest. I felt like it was just going to make everything so much worse. But anyway, so I get to pushing for a while. And then I think the doctor finally came in, maybe like an hour and 15 minutes into it. And finally the doctor's there. And they're like, we're going to start, we might have to, mind you, I don't know if I mentioned this, but they were not threatening. They thought I might have to get a C-section if nothing progressed because his heart rate was, emergency C-section, because his heart rate was dropping so much. But they just had to like constantly watch it. And, but he liked to be pushed. So, for the most part. At some points, like, his heart rate would drop, and I knew my fiance was, like, kind of freaking out. But his heart rate would drop, but for the most part, he liked to be pushed. Like, he wanted to get out. But he was really stressed in there, and that's what they were worried about, was when the baby gets stressed, it just puts a lot of things that can go wrong into the pregnancy. So, or into labor and delivery. So I'm not really good at pushing. I can tell I'm not very good at pushing. They had me put my legs in like different positions. My fiance had my left leg. A nurse had my right leg. A doctor was counting. A doctor. And then there was a bunch of nurses. There was a pediatrician and his student. It felt like there were so many people in there. And they had to start a vacuum. They were going to use a vacuum-assisted birth. They had 2 types of vacuums. Both of them, the doctor, he said he was comfortable with using. He used one that he was more comfortable with, and then he ended up having to switch to the other to finally get Keaton out. The thing about this is that it was hard to tell if the vacuum just came off of his head or if he came out of me. because it was kind of like the same relief of pressure, and then I'd feel like this like suction come off, and I think that's him coming out. So I would stop like pushing. So at this point, my contractions are like 2 minutes long. So since they're so long, they have me push at the peak of them. So I'm like contracting, feel the whole thing. I get to the peak, I start to push right before the peak, and then I push like 4 times, which usually it's like 3, because I felt like they were comfortable with 3. But my contraction wasn't done, and the only thing that made me feel better through the contraction was pushing. The only thing that like relieved some stress. Also, they say in the middle of contractions, like there's like relief, people talk through them and stuff like that. No. There was so much pain between each contraction. Each contraction was painful. Between contractions were painful. It felt like there was no relief at any point for straight 2.5 hours. And pushing made me so lightheaded. Again, I wasn't opening my eyes. My fever was so hot, like I had to keep having them put like wet cloths on me. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just glad that Keaton's okay. During it, I didn't even know what to think about. Also, I feel like if I had something to think about during each push, maybe it would have been a little better, but I didn't know what to think about. So I was just thinking about pushing, and like, or like my body would be pushing, but my mind was everywhere, like just listening to everyone talk, or just not really like fully in it. And they say sometimes like your body will take over. Can you finish this a little bit? But I didn't really feel like that. Like I felt like I was doing all the work. And maybe I definitely feel like if I prepared a lot for birth, it would have been a lot smoother. But I just didn't. And I mean, next time maybe I will, but I've also done it before, so I kind of know how it goes. Hi, Yetta boy. Oh, big stretches. Hi. You want to burp? Want to burp for the camera? Oh, that was a good one. Okay, so... Oh. Did a little stroke? You okay? Oh no. Okay, so I don't even know where I was. So basically, the vacuum, so then like when they're like, only a couple more, of course I'm feeling like, all right, let's freaking go. Like, only a couple more. It wasn't a couple more. I think her telling me that was bad because I just wanted every single one. And she'd be like, one more. But then finally it was one more. And they're like, he's out, he's okay. And he was crying. And I was just so happy it was over. But I was so relieved. Like, he was okay. And they didn't put him on me right away because they needed to make sure he was okay. He had gone through a lot throughout the entire thing, like even with the first poop, they needed to make sure he didn't swallow any of it, or digest any of it. They needed to make sure he was fine, and then they checked my temperature. I was like 101 degrees from pushing him out. Like, oh my gosh, how much hair, how big he is, like all these things, but we didn't really get to wait for a couple minutes, or like a length. So finally they brought him over to me. They put him on my chest, and I couldn't even look at him. Like, I was still so dizzy and felt so terrible. My placenta had come out fine, and he was just stitching me up. So I heard the doctor while I was in labor, and he was like, I'm going to help you a little bit, and I knew what that meant. He was going to cut me. I forget the term. So he cut me a little, and then I ended up tearing a little more. So I actually had a 4th degree tear, which is a tear all the way from the bottom of my vagina all the way to my butthole. So you can imagine that wasn't fun. And also my epidural isn't really working this entire time, so I can feel him stitching me down there. And it's just like, it was kind of just like wincing pain. Nothing as bad as a contraction. It was just like really annoying. Felt like stitches. So finally they put him on my chest. I didn't even look at him because he's just like on my chest, and I mean, I'll show you guys the picture right there. And I I don't even know what to think. I was just so relieved it was over. It wasn't even like this, I talked about it earlier, it wasn't even like this, overcoming love. Like, I already had loved him so much. I was just in so much pain, like, I just wanted to be not dizzy anymore. And so I was glad he was okay. And then they took him again to give him a bath and to weigh him and stuff. He weighed 9 pounds 1 ounce. Big ass baby. And he was fine, he was healthy, and everything was good. So we had to stay in the hospital for 48 hours just because how everything went. Sometimes they do that with first-time moms, usually second, third, fourth-time moms, whatever. They only for 24 hours, but ours was 48. The bed that my fiance slept in was really uncomfortable. It was this couch under freezing cold air. So first 24 hours, I was in a labor room, and then they'd bring you over to mommy and baby, and you stay in a smaller room. Both, I think, were super uncomfortable for him. My bed was fine. I was just really uncomfortable. It hurt to sit. Breastfeeding was fine. He was super cryy, fussy, all the time. Like, he didn't sleep, and babies only sleep, right? Like, for people who've had baby, you know that all they do is sleep. He had not slept for, like, he probably only slept for, like, 2 hours, maybe, of that 48 hours. Like, it was so bad. He just cried and cried and cried, and when he was feeding, he was fine. And after, he would just, like, he wouldn't really fall asleep, he would just cry. And we're like, what is wrong? Like, we didn't know. And so then finally we go home, and I was just happy to be home, but he is not okay. Like, I didn't know. Like, I was just like, he's just a baby, and he's super fussy and stuff. And so you have a checkup for him in like 2 days. I had him on the 17th. We left on the 19th in the afternoon. And then I had an appointment that Monday at the doctor's for Keaton. So we go to the doctor's, and he was 7 pounds 13 ounces. Yes, he had lost a lot of weight, 20%, but I also think the scale was a little off because he had originally got weighed at the hospital, and then this is now like a different office, so they say like sometimes it can be the difference of the scale. It was just super drastic, so they had me put him on formula, and then also his bilirubin was really high, so he was jaundice, and it was like 13, and it's supposed to be at like 8. That was probably like the hardest part about postpartum, was that when he wasn't okay, and it honestly tore me apart because he wasn't eating enough. That was the whole issue. So they gave him a little formula, and he literally passed out. It was like he had finally like had food. For the past couple days, he was just starving, and that honestly like broke me down. That was like the first time that like I just wasn't okay. And then he was jaundiced, and they were like, if it gets any higher, we'll have to take you guys into the hospital. And like, the hospital's just terrible. Like, you don't want to be there. And it's so uncomfortable, and like, you'd rather just have him crying in your house than crying in a hospital. So they had me do formula for like 24 hours. And then finally my milk came in, and he needed my milk. The stuff that you produce before your milk comes in, it just like wasn't enough for him. I think he was like really mature. And I know that's stupid to say, but like that's just how it felt. Like, it just wasn't enough for him. And also they said my placenta, he was big. They also said my placenta was old, so they thought it either had disconnected from my uterus too early, or I had conceived earlier than I thought. But that's not true, because we know the exact day that we had him, that he was conceived, so that wasn't it. So I don't know, has my uterus just or the placenta had just aged a lot quicker than normal, and they didn't really know what it was from, but it looked weird and different, and yeah. So but they don't really know, and I didn't really look into it, but I guess that'll be something I bring up in future pregnancies. I'm gonna turn the light on now, it's kind of dark. So they brought a company like brings the Billy blanket. His jaundice was high, his bilirubin was high. They brought the Billy blanket, and basically just for like 24 hours straight, he had to have the Billy blanket on, and then I had to go to the hospital every day to get his blood checked, his bilirubins checked. They'd take blood from his foot. And his numbers had gone down, so they called me, and they said, his numbers are going down. So at 12 o'clock, have the Billy blanket all day. And at 12 o'clock tonight, stop it. We'll test him again in the morning, see if his numbers like continued to go down without the Billy blanket or if they went back up. So his numbers went down again. So finally they're like, okay, no more Billy blanket. If he gets yellow, just let us know. But his numbers are like totally fine. Based on how many hours, it's based on how many hours old they are. And like based on that, they can be a certain number and be safe and out of the red zone. So he was good. His weight had gone back up. Basically, when we went back to the hospital, he had gone up like a pound. And they're like, yeah, that's just... And I went to the hospital to check his weight and his blood again, not the doctor's office. So when they had checked him at the hospital, they were like, yeah, he wouldn't gain a pound in a day. And I was like, I really think I was starving him. He totally could have, like, gained a pound. They're like, no. The scale was probably off, but he was hungry. And finally it felt like, all right, we can settle in and like, if he's crying, it's because he needs something. And that's really how he is. He cries because he's hungry or tired. It's usually because he's tired. But for the most part, he's a pretty good baby. I mean, he's my first. What do I compare it with? I don't know. So I really just wanted to share this story just to be real with everyone. But I just wanted to do this for all my pregnant ladies out there that are about to give birth. Don't be scared. I mean, I'm fine. I'm living today. And it might be crappy, but like to have this little life it's beyond words, honestly. You like feel this responsibility to keep yourself safe now more, like to protect me because I have to provide for him, and I want him to grow up with a mom and a dad that are there. And that's basically why I do everything for him. So thank you for coming on this journey with me. Honestly, I am open for questions, and like if anyone wants to hear anything else, like I'm kind of an open book about all this. And I don't know everything, but you learn a lot and you learn what your baby needs. So, I mean, a certain swaddle or something stupid like that could work for one baby, but he hates swaddles and gets out of all of them. So I had to have a zip up one with his arms close to his face, and that's where he's comfortable. And you just kind of figure that out as you go. It's a live and learn kind of experience. And I wish everyone the best. And goodbye.